He literally embodied this role.
From all the Jokers you see here, who do you think had the best portrayal?
Each generation has their own Joker, and I think that's a cool thing that everybody kind of has.
Oh, Joker.
I just saw this.
I just watched this.
Can you please stop bothering my kid?
That would be me as a mom. I would be like, leave him alone.
This is the last time we'll be meeting.
You don't listen, do you?
He literally embodied this role.
You don't listen, do you?
This is a hard character. So many interpretations.
You just ask the same questions every week.
He might mess around with an Oscar for this.
Are you having any negative thoughts?
Oh, his ribs scare me.
Are you having any negative thoughts?
Look how much weight he lost. That's so crazy.
All I have are negative thoughts.
He's such a good actor.
When I saw this trailer, I was like, I had my doubts, and then I saw it and I was like, this is a masterpiece.
For my whole life, I didn't know if I even really existed. But I do.
A lot darker than I thought it would be, but it makes sense if you know the comics at all.
Just a joke to you?
Oh, and the laughing.
Got tired of him picking on him. He's like, yo, I ain't gonna take this no more, man.
Murray, one small thing.
Yeah.
When you bring me out, can you
introduce me as Joker?
When you bring me out, can you introduce me as Joker?
It's so good!
He said, because that's what you called me when you were on TV. You called me Joker.
Joker! Yes!
Joker is one of the darkest DC villains, probably, if you think about it, if you know the character. And this movie, I don't know if people weren't expecting it to be this dark, but also realizing that most of it was probably all in his head.
So that was the trailer for the film Joker starring Joaquin Phoenix. Everybody in this episode has seen the film, and if you haven't at home, fair warning, there will be spoilers. So before we have you all give us your reviews and dive into questions, we're gonna have various YouTube channels break down their thoughts and theories around the film.
Ooh! I saw a lot of articles saying, don't take your kids to see this movie, which, duh, it's rated R.
I've heard to hate it. I've heard people walked out. They were like triggered. I am kind of been like, can't stop thinking about it. I need to see it again as soon as possible.
I've seen what people are saying on like Twitter. Some people are liking it, but I don't know. I'm an open book. I want to hear some opinions.
Just when you thought there could be no other Joker laugh or another take at this laugh.
Oh yeah, I loved the laugh.
Phoenix once again surprises with something that feels painful.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Where he's laughing, and then you can tell that his throat catches.
Yeah.
And he starts coughing, and he.
Yeah, that was one of the things.
Laughing this hard is actually
because it's supposed to be an illness of his. It's a neurological disorder that makes him laugh.
He starts coughing, and he holds his chest like.
There was a couple times I thought he like couldn't breathe.
Laughing this hard is actually physically painful for him.
Also, I just feel like that's partially because he smokes cigarettes throughout the entire duration of the film.
It is very inspired by the blueprint of Taxi Driver. There are key visuals
I can see that.
That feel like they are taken from Taxi Driver. There are
and De Niro's in it.
Nods and hints to Taxi Driver and King of Comedy. There is just a little bit too much of that. It's not that.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of inspiration.
You can't escape the fact that it is absolutely inspired by those films that came before it.
Yeah, definitely saw the similarities, tone, even some of the shots. I think that's okay. Like, homage is fine. I don't have a problem with homage, especially with the younger audience that's not going to know these movies.
One of the biggest challenges with a film like this is taking a character who is turning towards evil and having him be the protagonist. How do you carry a character like this throughout the whole movie without having that good person like Batman to come in and say, hey, this is wrong. You're gonna be this is wrong. You're gonna be in a padded cell forever.
It's a pretty good impression.
Time, the lack of a heroic character is what makes this film special because it makes the audience ask some hard questions. Questions like, what role do we play in creating the Joker?
Oh, that's so true. As things were happening to him that just weren't great, I was like, uh-oh. And I started to think about today, and bullying and things like that.
That was Chris Stuckmann breaking down the film. Would you agree with Chris that there's kind of a lack of a heroic character in the film?
There was no hero in this film. Like, in my opinion, everyone in this movie was bad. Even his mom, like, turned out to be bad in the end.
I don't think I've ever seen a movie like this where the main character, the protagonist, is a villain essentially, and there's not that hero that sweeps in and fixes everything. Did I feel sorry for him? At some points I did, but he's also a very dark character. He's a murderer. I'm not trying to justify anything that they did, but you could see where I understand the controversy.
I need to stress this isn't a Joker movie. I mean, it's titled Joker, but if you're going into this movie being like, all right, we're going to see the Joker wreck some shit, it's a bit more of a slow burn than that.
I mean, he still some shit, but like in a way that psychologically terrorizes you.
You're getting a character movie. This movie should be called Arthur.
Arthur.
I saw a comment in the comment section of one of my videos about this movie, one of the trailer videos, like, oh, I hope there's a lot of action or something like that. I was like, that is going to be one disappointed person.
Yeah.
It's not an action movie. And the journey of Arthur.
I thought it was still great.
And the journey of Arthur, it's not just like, oh, he's Arthur Fleck, he's this like dumpy kind of sad guy, and then one day he's the Joker.
That is the cool thing, is there's such a build up.
Well, wow, we're different than where we started. How did we get here? It's like the movie does.
That's so true.
I will say, yeah, sometimes the movie is uncomfortable, but that's because it feels so real. It doesn't feel like a comic book villain. You're not there.
Agree with that.
Oh, hey, or Joker gonna get dipped in acid, or even dipped in society. All right, he's gonna put on the makeup and then commit some crime. The entire time, you're rooting for him to not snap like that. I didn't expect that. As a Joker fan, I was like, all right, let's snap and get to the real shit.
Right, let's get to the gritty stuff, yeah.
You're actually pulling for him to not do that.
Yes.
You actually feel bad for him. So the fact that
it humanized him a lot.
Feel like this movie's uncomfortable. Good job, movie, for doing your job.
Yeah, agreed. It wants to move you. If it moves you into uncomfortability, then it did its job.
That was Jeremy Jahns, who mentioned that this movie wasn't necessarily a Joker movie. Do you think this film could stand out on its own without the comic book elements as simply a depiction of a man's descent into violent madness?
I mean, I guess that it could stand on its own, but I feel like the reason why it is so popular is because it's attached to this comic book franchise of Batman. It brings it even closer to you when it's subject matter that you already know a bit about.
It could have been a standalone movie, just been a movie by itself, and the guy just going through his and doing whatever. But the Joker element to it is bringing a lot more fans into it because everybody knows about Joker. The studio people know what they're doing. This is going to be a franchise.
They were tackling issues that we are dealing with today with gun violence and mental illness. And I think maybe that's it. Maybe because they're really hitting hard on those issues with this character, it felt more real.
So Joker has been portrayed many times across film, TV, and beyond, and many often ask, who's the best Joker of all time? So now we're gonna pull up images of some of the most iconic Jokers from the past before Joaquin Phoenix's take on the role to see who you think had the best portrayal.
Yeah, I think I only know like Heath Ledger and then Jack Nicholson.
The first one up is Cesar Romero from 1966.
Yeah, I've seen this in the OG Batman. He was like a quirky kind of Joker, very comic book, and it's the 60s, so that was fun.
Next one is Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, definitely remember Jack Nicholson.
That was classic.
Next is Mark Hamill, who played the animated version of the Joker.
From Batman the Animated Series.
He's an icon. Obviously, he was Luke Skywalker, and I didn't realize he did a lot of voice acting. This just happens to be one of them.
The way he does bipolar disorder that Joker clearly has, he's all of a sudden down here, and then he just like, Holly, and then he just comes up here, and he's just like, it comes out of nowhere that you're scared. Even when he's calm, you're like, he could crack at any moment.
And then Heath Ledger.
He brought it back to life. He made it his own.
Since he passed away, he's one of those actors that I wish could have lived longer and done more movies. But then also, I loved the Dark Knight series, and I loved this movie, that he's fantastic.
Last but not least, Jared Leto.
We just cut him out. Cut him out. I hate it so much.
I like the look, but it wasn't there.
I just don't really have much to say about that one. And that's sad because I feel like he probably did put quite a bit of work into it, and I don't think we got to see a lot of that work.
From all the Jokers you see here, who do you think had the best portrayal?
Jack Nicholson.
Cesar Romero from the show. It was campy and ridiculous.
One that sticks with me the most is gotta be Mark Hamill.
Growing up, I watched the Heath Ledger one, so I'm just gonna naturally gravitate towards that.
Heath Ledger, has such a special place in my heart. Each generation has their own Joker, and I think that's a cool thing that everybody kind of has.
So you've seen the film, you've seen people's breakdown of the film. We want to know, what did you think of it?
When I walked out of the theater, I was like, that was such a good movie. I felt so like drawn in the whole time, and especially once I realized that things weren't like as they seemed, I was like, what's next?
It was a perfect mix of like tragedy and it was dark and it was unsettling, but it was like the performance that Joaquin Phoenix has is just mind-blowing.
I liked it a lot, and I feel like this could be a trend for other characters, you know, doing this type of movie where you know they're going to be the villain. You know the end of the story, but see how they got there.
It's a great movie. It hits on issues that we're dealing with today. I experienced emotions that I don't think I've truly felt in a movie theater before, of the fear and anxiety, the compassion for someone that's going through something like he did, but then also him becoming this, evil person because of the path that he ended up going down.
The film has been polarizing overall, many people loving it and others having strong critiques against it. One thing people have said and brought up earlier in the episode is the idea that the movie presents the character of the Joker as like a protagonist, with the audience kind of sympathizing with him.
Yeah, people gonna sympathize with him because a lot of people see themselves in him. Like, I'm being mistreated, how it is out here in the society. I'm not getting the right breaks. It's like, everything's not going my way.
Did you find yourself sympathizing at some points to a certain extent or no?
I feel bad for him, you don't want to see people get knocked around, but he's like, not a very likable person. He's got a lot of issues. You feel bad for him in that he can't get the help he needs.
I think the criticism is ridiculous. We just keep blaming movies for our ideas of life, for our actions afterwards. You can't blame someone else for what you want to, or what your actions are. It's what you choose to do.
I didn't really sympathize with the Joker aside from the opening scene. So I thought that the movie did a pretty good job of like, this is a bad person.
It's important to, and it's also nice to understand where a person's coming from. Like, even though it's not, you shouldn't justify his actions, it's important to see why they are the way that they are, so you find the root of the problem and then you can fix it. So I think that's what was awesome about this movie, is that it showed that, and although it's not good, it's not okay, it's interesting.
What they've done with him is they've represented at least two things that I took out of it, was bullying and mental illness. I feel like they really kind of touched on those issues that we deal with as a society, that maybe we sometimes we shrug off or we don't take seriously, that somebody can go down a dark path, maybe not as bad as Joker, but if we don't take care of each other or treat each other with kindness, there's somebody that could get hurt and it could lead them down a path that isn't a good one.
Finally, director Todd Phillips has mentioned that he wanted to sneak a real movie under the guise of a comic book film, with some critics pointing out that the film transcends comic book films and acts more as a character study of sorts. We've seen an uptick in R-rated superhero films with darker tones and themes, with the success of Logan, Deadpool, and now Joker. Would you consider this a comic book film or an evolution of these blockbusters?
I think an evolution of the blockbusters. It is kind of straying away from the classic comic book type film, and I like that because it's taken its own twist on it because it's fiction.
This is like a gorgeous little blend. Like, I love this because people who are into comic books can watch this and love it, and people who aren't can be like, oh, like, this is kind of fun. And then this is obviously gonna like drive so much interest for like DC that like wasn't there.
It's still a comic book movie because it's about this character from a comic book, but I think comic book characters have real lives too, and we need to it's great to see those stories, and especially when they're portrayed like the one we saw with Joker.
Thanks for watching this twisted episode of Adults React. Shout out to Kyle Parman.
Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss an episode.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Hi guys, I'm JC here, producer here at FB. Make sure to check out shopfb.com to get a ton of new FB merch. We update the store every month, so check it out. Bye guys.